Hi everyone, welcome to the 94th episode of the Zicast. As always, I'm your host Ryan Ziaks, and today I'm joined by designer Emily Katz.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you so much for being here, Emily. And I'd like to shout out episode 31 guest Chen for technical directing once again. So Emily, I think you know what I do here. I interview people, I get to know them better, and I'm hyped to get to learn more about you. So how about you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Emily. I'm a 3+1 first-year graphic design and advertising double major student. I was born and raised in New Jersey, like Monmouth County. That's about me.
Awesome. And yeah, so you study graphic design and you study journalism.
Yeah, so my majors, they focus kind of more on like the visual and like marketing side of like that goes with design. But, being in Q30, I've been able to really explore the more journalism side of kind of pairing together like what I do visually with the journalism side of like communications.
Of course, and Q30 is the student-run television show here on campus, which when this episode releases, you'll be the vice president of, and we'll get into that later. But I'm kind of more interested into where everything started. So do you mind telling us where your passion for design and journalism started?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually really funny. During high school, we had kind of like a smaller version of like Q30. We had our own like broadcast. So it was called the Manalp and Bravecast. It was our own like morning live show. So we put on like an actual broadcast every Friday morning, the entire week, putting on, the pre-production, creating packages, interviewing, putting together graphics. And every Friday people took, those 10 minutes of their days, every classroom in the high school. They watched what we had to put on. It was kind of, the announcements of the week, any upcoming events. And it really prepared me for, being involved in Q30. And I think at the beginning, when I got involved in Bravecast, I was more in kind of like the visual aspect of it. I was very, very much creating like the graphics and like the lower thirds, and that's how I really got into creating, motion graphics and even graphic design. And I think that's where I was like, oh wait, this can be a career. Like this can actually be something that I can do for a living. And it was kind of something fun at first. It wasn't even like, oh, I'm doing journalism. It was kind of just, oh, I'm just doing this. It didn't even feel like I was doing it to prepare me for, the future. It was kind of just doing it for me and just doing it for the group, the program. And I think having that support throughout the program kind of like pushed me into being like, this can actually be something that I can put, my graphic design skills and use it towards journalism and kind of prepared me to be a part of Q30 for my first year.
Yeah, so I'm curious, like, what your favorite aspects of both of those, journalism and graphic design, are, and kind of like how they intertwine.
I think something about how, I think when it comes to just like journalism in general, I think there's always something new to do. Like there's never going to be a part of journalism that like never starts expanding. And I think when it comes to like the visual aspect, like there's always something you could try, and there's always something new you can, give a shot. And if it doesn't work, try something new. And I think that's where I found, with when you go out and you film a story, like I filmed a story on the cat business, you can interview someone and you can, use B-roll and then be done. But, taking what you know from like visual design and making graphics, you can really add your own personal spin on it and create more intriguing B-roll and have fades and different transitions to really make a segment really come to life in like your own little way. And I think by just taking kind of like the fundamentals of like what I've learned in design, I'm able to really put my own little spin on like journalism.
Yeah, because it's all storytelling.
Yeah.
And you're able to tell it visually, you're able to tell it through reporting and through writing. And to kind of continue on that path of storytelling, what are some of your favorite stories or memories from being a journalist, being a designer?
Yeah, I think so. One of my stories, it's funny. I was a AP for a newscast, which is the news station, one of the stations in Q30, and I did a lot of kickers. So for anyone who doesn't know, those are like kind of like the fun packages. You interview a business or about an event that happened on campus, and I did a lot of kickers. And one of them, I got to interview the Cat Cafe, the owner of the Cat Cafe in New Haven. I think it's like the New Haven Cat Cafe. It was so much fun. I think those are the kickers. News is it's so easy to get like very focused on like the actual political part of like news and like in Hamden and like with the schools, but really learning about like, the stories of like business owners.
Yeah.
I got to learn about like why she created this business and like the story with her husband about all of that, and got to play with Katz while I was doing it. That was so much fun. I think that was, sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh.
But yeah, that was definitely one of them.
I mean, fitting. It's in your last name, Katz. So
I even made like a little pun in my outro. I was like, and I'm Emily Katz, and there was like a cat behind me, and I think I like pointed to the cat. But.
Yeah, Michael Katz Flynn would enjoy that very much.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's. I think having the last name Katz really just makes you open up to the puns more. I don't know what it is.
It was fitting. It was pretty fitting. I've heard a lot of cat puns through high school, and I think I've just embraced it. I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's fitting. It's also funny because Sydney Weimer, I had her on here, and she explained to me what kickers are, which I didn't know beforehand. So maybe I don't know what that says about me, but I didn't know what kickers were beforehand. And it's cool that like you got to do that side of the news because kind of like you mentioned, news can be very heavy a lot of times, and to be able to tell those like kind of interesting, fun stories. Any other kickers that you've been able to do that you enjoyed?
Ooh, this is one of my earlier packages too. There's a man in really right down the road. He opens like a haunted house, like in his house, like every year. And I think this is a very like standard news package. We always interview him. He's very nice. And I got to, check out the house before, like a few nights before Halloween. I guess that was a week when the Halloween shows were going, and interview him, and it was just such a fun package because we got to go inside the house and speak with him and just hear about like all the progress. Cause it's been up for a few years now, and it was such a fun package B-roll wise. I think anytime there's like, you're able to get B-roll and kind of like of the house, and you're not like searching for it, that's when it's really fun because you can really kind of put together his story when you have like the visuals to show it. So that was really fun.
Yeah, especially like that because it's kind of like the perfect storm because you have, like you mentioned, like this interesting story, but you have so much to show off with it that would interest people because naturally so many people are interested in haunted houses. And all of these experiences in Q30 being a producer for Newscast helped lead you into becoming the vice president of the station now. Woo! So we could kind of get into that now. And I'd like to ask you kind of like your excitement about that position and kind of like what type of leader you'd want to be in it.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm so excited. I think, at the end of the day, I think when it came to, applying for it and even just going for the role, I think a big thing on my mind was I think there was a lot that I wanted to accomplish. I came into Q30, and I think there were so many people that were so welcoming and just helpful and helping me become acclimated to the program and really just helping me step out of my comfort zone, trying new things. And I think a lot of that came from me relying on, cabinet and reaching out whenever I had any concerns. And I want to do the same thing for, new freshmen and even people that have been in the program. I think a lot of what I said in my presentation, applying for it was that there's being, a broadcast organization, there's so much room for, improvement. We're a broadcast organization, there's more marketing that we can do and more fundraising and all of that. And I think that's where I'm going to lead with, with as I step into this role next semester of just, being that leader who can, encourage, getting outside of that like Q30 bubble, getting people to be involved, but also just being that helpful hand when someone can reach out to if they're having any issues or need help with anything.
Definitely. And Q30 was, I very much second that because Q30 very much was welcoming to me when I first stepped into it. And of course, there's always more kickers to add to Q30 as well. And you're talking about the marketing aspect, and something that's always interested me about Q30, or at least in some capacities, you have kids from a lot of different majors that get involved in it, and it's not exclusive to communication students or film students, even though it's primarily occupied to them. How would you want to like potentially bring in people who aren't those types of majors? Yeah,
no, that's such a great question. I think a lot of that we've been talking about in cabinet meetings is like the marketing side of Q30, and I think it was someone who brought it. I think it might have been. I don't know who exactly, but it was very much a big discussion of reaching out to like the business school and putting up flyers on, do you like marketing or do you have a passion for social media? Like, come be involved in Q30. So getting people like specifically going out and outreaching to people in like business majors and marketing majors to really get that expertise and really draw into applying what they know to Q30.
Yeah. And Q30 is like the ultimate networking opportunity for people too. And then you bring in people with different interests and from different majors. It kind of just helps helps kind of widen people's nets, if that makes sense. And it kind of gives them a different pool of people. Yeah, you're able to be now the vice president. You're, of course, a host. You hosted SMS, or Student Media Showdown, with our good friend Anthony Icardi, who called you, quote unquote, very girl boss. I hope that's a great compliment.
I didn't know that. That's pretty. That's funny.
I guess that's how we described you. So tell us a bit about that experience, because that was a lot of fun to be a part of.
Student Media Showdown was so fun. It was such a great. You know what's so funny? I was thinking about it. I was wondering if it was going to be brought up, and it like didn't feel real until like it was like 10 minutes before it started. You know, it's like weird. It's like, what do you mean it didn't feel real? I think, you know, JJ, he was the entertainment director this these past 2 semesters. He really made it such a simple process of like, you know, making sure me and Anthony felt kind of, you know, never like in the dark when it came to like planning. You know, he was very you know, he held very great communication with like filming those little skits before, and just everything felt so calm and like nothing felt scary at all, almost as, and then, you know, once I saw people, you know, entering the red carpet that we do and filling up the piazza, I was like, oh, this is real. Like, this is happening. And I think I was Anthony. I'm like, oh, wow, this is like real until, and I think, it was such a great experience. I think I encourage anyone who even has like an inkling to do it. I think, you know, in high school, I was never really on camera. I was always person behind, you know, doing graphics, doing, you know, script writing and all of that. You can never catch me on camera. And I thought it would be fun to try, you know, why not try? And I'm so glad I did, because now, you know, Anthony's a great friend, and you know, it's one of those things that, you know, when you push yourself out of your comfort zone, you never really know what's gonna come out of it. And I'm so happy I did, I think.
Yeah. And of course, Student Media Showdown's a clash of all the student media organizations. So like Q30, or our radio show on campus, our sports network on campus, and they're all going up against each other for bragging rights, essentially. And then you and Anthony were hosting it and had all these funny ad libs and all these like funny moments. And I'm sure that was also a great way for you to kind of like also put yourself out there to be like very known amongst everyone. And I think that kind of helps set you up well to be vice president, would you say?
I hope so. You know, I think that was also a great thing. You know, I got, like you said, it's all, I think at even the beginning of when we got to introduce ourselves, and Anthony was like, oh, what are you looking forward to for tonight? I was like, we never get to see all of the student media orgs in like one spot.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of the gist of what I said. And I mean it. I mean, you know, I think at sometimes with communications, you know, things can get a little competitive. You know, we're all at one way or another kind of trying to get the same information or that story. But it was nice to see everyone just having a genuine good time, just being each other's company. And I think, you know, to be there and kind of guide this event along, I think that was such a great experience, you know, to be kind of like at the head with Anthony and kind of just showing that we can all really get along and have a fun night with not having any, you know, disruptions or kind of that competition, you know.
It was it's like the holidays. It's like bringing everyone together. But now let's continue onwards in the episode, and let me ask you, what are some things people might not know about you, like fun facts?
Fun facts. I don't know. This might be kind of known. I don't know. I feel people who have gotten to know me, they know I'm kind of into like the visual side of like things. Maybe even like have seen me take photos for like some of the shows. But I feel like people don't maybe know that I'm very much into also like the video side of like content production. In high school, I directed and edited like my own documentary for like the broadcast program, the Valutkevich Bravecast, and so I really do enjoy the actual kind of like visual storytelling. So I've gotten a chance to produce some like educational type of like mini videos and all of that, and go out in the district and during high school and kind of film those type of videos. And I think that's something people don't kind of know about me, is that I also really enjoy, you know, not only like the visual and graphics and posters, but also like the video production side of things.
And that reminds me, we met because you took photos for Up Late, which is a late night show that I pitched to Q30. We had an amazing pilot, and you took photos for us, and you took some baller photos.
Thank you.
And that was my introduction to Emily Katz, which was the perfect introduction. And that's another thing. I forgot that you took photos. What kind of do you enjoy about that whole process?
I started taking photos in high school. You know, we got, you know, some nice cameras that you could try out. The director was very willing to let us all kind of experiment and just let us free range and try things. I really love photography. I'm going to try next semester to do it more often, but I think what I like most about it is, I don't know, I think it's something about not even just like, oh, the validation of it, but I don't know, I think it's so nice to see someone so happy with, that they're going to have these memories now because you were there to kind of get those shots or get that shot they didn't even think you got. Oh, you got me when I was laughing and I didn't even, now I'm going to have that forever. I didn't even think you had gotten that. I think there's something so special about photography. It's like that, like one permanent reminder, and it doesn't take a lot, like even on a phone, I think photography is so like versatile. It can be applied to any situation, anything. And I think it's such a beautiful art that like, I feel like it gets mislooked sometimes on like how important it is to people, and I really like that.
Yeah, you catch people cheesing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you
Exactly.
love photography. What's one thing you love and one thing you strongly dislike in general?
Like anything, I guess. Like,
yeah.
I'm trying to think about this. I don't know. I think I don't want to go like too deep, but I don't know. I really I was trying to think of like something to say for something that I like, but genuinely something I really like is like people that are just like genuinely like always kind. Like it sounds so like, oh, cheesy, someone who's kind, but no, like I'm a very strong believer that I don't have to know you. I don't have to. We might have you might not know me. Might have never even exchanged a conversation, but I don't know, some like seeing that you've done something very kind or just kind of overheard you do something that was like, oh wow, that was really cool. Like you didn't have to do that. I don't know, it's something about those little small moments when you just see those small acts of kindness just around, whether people think you've seen them or not. I don't know, they really always just like kind of reignite kind of my like, oh wow, we're really doing okay. You know, it's nice to see people just being genuinely kind, and I think that's something that kind of gets lost nowadays, but I just love to see it, even everywhere.
But I think you embody that, Emily, because you're always in a good mood and you always have a smile on your face. That's something I appreciate.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And you always need people like that to help lift everything up. And after saying that, it might be hard to find something you strongly dislike, but I'm curious to hear it.
It's so funny. I was going to say, like, when missing media pops up on, like, Adobe Premiere, I was like, that's very strongly disliked.
That is the perfect answer. That's the perfect answer. I think we can all relate to that one.
Yeah. So for those who aren't editors, it's like when essentially, like, you're editing something and the footage won't pop up on...
Oh, so scary.
Yeah, when the Chinese text pops up, I'm like, oh, no.
Something's wrong.
No.
Oh, my. Yeah, that. And I don't know what else. I don't know. I think
that's a relatable one.
I think that's a very
for
relatable
us
one.
as communications film students.
It's scary because it can catch you off guard, especially if you have a really large timeline, you don't even see that like one red line, and you kind of zoom and you're like, oh no, when did that even disappear? Trying to find it. That's a good one.
Yeah, you're not even caught teasing. You're just caught.
You're just caught.
In sorrow.
Caught goofing.
Caught goofing. We hope we don't see those messages. So, Emily, what are some of your hopes and dreams professionally or in general?
I think, I don't know, I'd very much consider myself a very well-rounded person. I think I could see these next few years kind of going in so many different directions. I'm in, I did news and very journalism, end up like, that's not my major. It's kind of just tried it out, really loved it. And now I'm going to AP for #that, which is very much like not that like heavy news. It's more fun and creative, and, you kind of, can take that more creative spin, which is, and I think professionally, I don't know, it sounds once again so cheesy, but I think the reason why I even got into design was to help people. I think people don't see, just like communication sometimes is like being helpful, but in reality it helps so much with so many different things. Promote that brand. Without great design, you might not have a brand identity that people might not know about you or your business, or that service that you want to offer. And I think I just want to, I do freelancing sometimes, and I think the best thing that comes out of that is that at the end of the day you can see that person's website or their Instagram really pop up, and you're just like, wow, like people are just seeing those designs that you made for them, and their brand's really growing. And I think whether it's working for like an agency or even doing more freelancing, or maybe even working in broadcast, doing something with graphics development, I'd be very happy. I think just contributing to some type of organization or some type of, just mission. I think that's where I really see myself.
Yeah.
But
And that reminds me that this upcoming semester, you're also going to be producing a show as well as being the VP. So I'm going to put this in WWE terms. It's like you have like one of the major championships, and then like they have, like sometimes a wrestler has like the WWE championship, and they have like the United States championship, which is like they're two different belts. So it's like you have two different championships at the same time.
Oh, do you mean? Oh, okay. So like the two different roles.
Yeah.
Or,
so
okay.
you have two. You're a champion, Emily.
Can you
That's
tell
what
I
I'm
don't
telling
know
you. No. This is a very niche reference that I'm
I like
making.
it. I love it.
So yeah.
I think a big part of what's going to help me succeed as vice president is kind of still having my kind of foot in the water, and not really backing away from producing. I think that was a big thing of, trying to convince, to even be let to apply for AP, because it's not very, people usually don't produce and have a role in cabinet. So I think a big thing was like, I don't want to just be a figurehead. I want to be someone who's, still producing and learning with the team and really getting to kind of see what the team needs. So I think, being vice president, you need to know what people in the actual stations need. I think what better way to do that than naturally being in the station, producing with the team every week and going through the successes and the challenges. So I think, I'm so excited to really just be a part of that process this next semester. But
and also you're just trying to grow and to have the opportunity to produce a show. Why not? If it's on your plate, why not eat it? If that makes any sense.
I like that.
That's a funny analogy.
That's a good one. I like that one.
It's you're just trying to get that experience, and then it's also cool. Like you say in your resume, like I helped run the station and also helped produce a show, and I know you love both of those things. But let me ask you, Emily, pivoting from that, what are some of your favorite movies?
Ooh, okay. I feel like a lot of my friends or people that I meet get very surprised. I don't know why when I say like I'm very into like thrillers and like horror like shows. I love thrillers. I think so. One of my favorites. I'm kind of all over the place with movies. I'm very much not like, oh, it needs to be thrillers, but I just watched, I think it was like Speak No Evil. I watched that one. Watchers was really good. Oh my God, I love Watchers. I like all those, so thrillers are a big one. But also, the classics, Pitch Perfect. Love Pitch Perfect, me and my sisters. That was our show. That was our movie we would watch. Perks of Being a Wallflower. Those are all over the place. And then there's Disney movies that, love near and dear to my heart. I'm all over the place with movies, but I really do like thrillers.
And I'm thrilled that you decided to come on this episode of the Zicast, Emily. So thank you so much. And do you have any motivational words or plugs or anything you want to leave the audience with?
I think for anyone, especially in communications, I don't know, I'm sure this is said, but I don't know, I think when you're even just getting involved or in a leadership spot, I think at the end of the day, I think what's so important to understand is even when you have a leadership position, I think, it's so easy to say, okay, I have this, you have this name and that's going to be it. But I think at the end of the day, it's also important to have great memories with who you led. If you're vice president, but people don't have these great memories of like what you did or how you helped them or just how you made them feel when you were in this leader position. Were you really a great leader? I think that's something to just understand that as a leader, you're there to, learn and grow what skills you need to be as a leader, but you're also there to help others grow with you. And I think that's something that I've learned, doing leadership stuff, and even just this year of like you're there to help others succeed at the same time and grow people with you. And I think that's something to really keep in mind. But
real. And
thank you.
And thank you so much, Emily. I always applaud you for, of course, your enthusiasm, always being very bright, like I noted, but also your work ethic. Like I feel like whenever I'm in this building, we're in CCE, which is a lot of communications students are. You're always working on something. I always see you at your computer working on graphics or working on a story. So you're always working, and then your ability to like branch out, like we noted, like with journalism, like with design, with photography. I very much, like I said, applaud you for that, and I'm very excited to see what you'll end up doing as vice president and what you'll do in your time, because you have a ton of it, and there's so much to do. And thank you so much for joining us here, Emily, and sharing all these cool stories.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you.
And as always, this is Ryan Ziaks with the Zicast, where everyone has a story. Signing off. Thank you so much for watching.